Welcome to Work Made Easy, where we explore the transformative power of simplicity in driving positive action and unlocking your fullest potential.
Hello listeners, welcome to yet another episode of Work Made Easy. The big news is that the book, Work Made Easy, that I co-authored with Oxford University professor John Hofmeyr and the CEO of Free Space, Raj Krishnamurthy, is being published this month. So please do check it out on Amazon, and if you happen to read it, in fact, please do let us know what you think about it. Perhaps you could leave a review on Amazon or write to us. All right, let's jump into our episode today. Recently, I met Nida Mehtab, founder and CEO of Caryatid, which offers workplace and cultural transformational services. Nida and I have known each other for a few years through our shared involvement in the work we do at Advanced Workplace Associates. And she has a brilliant mind, and I always wanted to do an episode with her. Now, when I met her, we did not have access to a studio on that day. So we just sat down in an open area on a cold morning and started chatting. And I really enjoyed our conversation. We kind of picked each other's brains about employee-centricity and about the pivotal role of data in shaping organizational narratives. We spoke about other things as well, but here I bring to you the meat of our discussion. So buckle up, dear listeners, and welcome to a conversation that challenges some perceptions and ignites the fires of transformation, if I may. Welcome to Work Made Easy.
Hey Nida, good to see you. Good to see you
Same
finally.
here.
Sorry, I got a little late. I was in a meeting. We were doing this employee survey. It's all about employee centricity these days, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it?
It is.
What's up with that?
No, I mean, I've always felt that, there was this inflection point when it comes to consumer goods, that when we had limited choices and suddenly we had a lot of choices, and the whole marketing, kind of game changed to becoming customer-centric, and the way advertisements are done, the way PR is done changed. And I feel that, we're at that inflection point in the history of, sort of say, workplaces and workplace strategy, where the wheels are turning. Management science was written from a employer's perspective, and it seems to be that I think we need to rewrite that a little, because it is becoming more and more about employees.
I think that there is something there, what you are saying.
Something, okay.
There is something there. And I'll tell you why, because I totally agree that, yes, the management science was written from an employer perspective. And yes, in this day and age, especially post-pandemic, employee centricity has become all the more important. Could not agree more. But there's a need to balance both. I think there's something to be said about finding the right balance between the two, and I'll tell you why. Because there was an interesting discussion I was having with one of our clients' leader the other day, C-suite member, and I asked them, I said, tell me one thing. Your CEO has sent you an email to ask your employees to come to the office 50% of their time. And of course, the teams are going to manage what that 50% translate to. Why do you think that is necessary? And he said that we know what the innovation pipeline looked like in 2019. We had visibility into next 10 years, 15 years. Right now,
You don't
it's
know.
eroded.
Yeah.
And I said, but how many of your employees know that? He said, well, we haven't communicated that. And that's where the problem is. I think we are thinking that employee centricity is something very different than employer point of view. The way to bring these forces together and to have the balance, because employees are not dumb, neither is leadership. Employees are smart enough to understand what's good for them and what's good for the company. So they're not going to resist if they understand the why behind it. And that's what's lagging. And this is the area where when I keep saying that people bring in change management into when the project has started, now go and make it wonderful and a success story. No, when you're thinking about an idea of changing something or even transforming something, that's where those discussions need to happen, so that you bring that the concept, the reasoning, and the whys behind it, and pull it forward to translate into it. And if you do that right, then it's not employee versus employer. It will become one, and that's really important to bring. And business perspective is equally important to be looked at, which most will understand if communicated correctly. Some may still not.
Right.
That's where I think I meant, like, there's something there.
Yes, I agree. There has to be a fine balance between it. And the other thing is that you mentioned about this, the C-suite guy you spoke about. I meet a few of them, you meet a few of them. I also feel that many a times there's a bit of a conflict in their heads that I know it's about employee centricity. I know that, they're being more vocal. I know that their voice needs to be heard now, but I probably don't have the system and processes to do anything about it. You said, there's a communication gap. Yes, but how do I really communicate? How do I communicate to a bunch of people who do not come to the office anymore? And I, as a leader, am used to managing people when I see them in front of me. How do I get that across when they're not in front of me? So there are some conflicts out there. I mean, it's easier said than done.
No disagreement there. I think it's easier said than done. I think two things for leaders in this day and age to remember is that you cannot ask employees to do something without giving them the data to show that, yes, you come to the office
because when
because
something is done to them, right? And
a
lot of that happens.
It's human behavior. It's the way our brain works. Is if something is being imposed on us, there is something behind it. I mean, in this,
however sweet the ice cream may be, I don't like it if it's forced upon me.
People are smart. I think we are getting smarter and smarter as a species, and that's why we are realizing that we are picking and choosing what to believe, what not. There's so much data, points of data around us all the time. We pick and choose what we want to believe by processing that information. And I'll tell you example. For instance, these days we are hearing that, the productivity is being impacted and the culture is being. Have you measured that?
No.
I mean,
there is no reliable and standardized method of doing that.
And that is one thing that employees need to see if they're being asked to do something, is that why is that happening, and what is the impact by them doing that? What impact are they going to create? Because in the end, today's workforce is more impact and results oriented than leaders even want to give them credit to. And the other part of communication is also that the first part of communication is acknowledging something. And if you keep believing something that is not true, you will not have enough mechanism or channels to communicate. So for leaders to believe in something concrete, they should have some data as well. So it's very like circular chicken and egg kind of thing. But if you don't measure, you don't have enough information to be able to communicate.
Right.
And that is the circular. That is something, that conundrum that we are seeing right now.
Right. Yeah. Any solutions to that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think organizations should have a measurement mechanism for bringing all the data points together to be able to tell a story and see the impact before and after. Or this is a perfect time when organizations are experimenting so much that they can actually set a new baseline and then trend it, measure it every 6 months. Culture, employee experience, everything. There are quantitative data points, there are qualitative data points. You bring various things together, lenses together, give them certain priority level, and then you can actually tell a story. Because we have enough data, but we don't know what to do with it because we're not seeing everything together. I think that's where the next challenge will come as well. Yes, we have a lot of permission to do experimentation and piloting things, but soon enough, when we're going to be ready to roll out globally, let's say organization A, if they are ready to roll out globally an initiative that they piloted last year, go to the CFO, say, I will need X million dollars to roll it out. The first question they're going to ask is that, tell me how it worked. So how are we measuring what we're experimenting?
Right. Yeah.
I think that is the piece that's missing, is going to become more and more relevant in next 6 months.
Yeah, and when it comes to business, obviously, everything has to be justified on a Excel sheet, on a spreadsheet, and I think it works both ways, like what you're saying. Of course, it works at the C-suite level, but even for people who believe something, they need to see data. And I think there's been a lot of focus on emotional buy-in to something. There's been a lot of preaching, but there's no kind of data to actually support. There's no logical buy-in which is happening, right?
Totally agree.
That's what you're indicating at. Yeah.
Totally agreed. Yeah. Because in the end, what's good for employees is for the employer. It's good for the employer too. But we feel like there's a divide right now. That's us versus them. That's where these connection points are missing. No
Oh, so
measurement.
you're saying the divide is kind of increasing?
Because we are not able to your point,
Yeah.
that there's a communication gap. The why is not being communicated to who. Then how will you get that emotional buy-in?
Right.
And you cannot get that why clearly communicated if you're not measuring. So it's a very interesting time.
All boils down to data, isn't it? And
It
so
is.
I began by saying user centricity or employee centricity. It actually boils down to measuring across different criteria on what their wants and needs are, and how do you actually kind of setting up a criteria for success on projects, and how do you then decide that this is a success or a failure.
I think so. I think seeing is believing too. And a workforce of today is very smart. So if there's enough logic behind what leaders want them to do, they'll have to do a little more than just saying to do it. They'll have to show by data.
Yeah. Data and Nida, thank you so much for doing this.
Very well. It was fun, Partha.
It's fun.
It's cool. I like it.
Hi listeners, thanks for sticking around, and it's good to be doing this part from my home studio, nice and warm. It was quite cold when Nida and I had that conversation out in the open, and every time I've met Nida, I've come back with some fresh perspectives about things. She is an original, and as we wrap up this insightful discussion today, I'd just like to highlight 3 key learnings that emerged from our dialogue. Firstly, Nida emphasizes the importance of striking a delicate balance between employee-centric initiatives and broader business objectives. A lot of people out there, including me, talk about giving priority to employee well-being and engagement, and she points out that success lies in aligning these interests with organizational goals. And navigating this balance requires transparent communication. And when such communication is backed by data-driven insights, bridging that gap becomes far easier. Secondly, she underscores the critical role of effective communication in fostering trust and alignment within the workforce. And she highlights a very common problem. Leaders often overlook the why behind their decisions, leaving employees feeling disconnected and skeptical. Nida speaks about a proactive approach to change management, where discussions on transformational initiatives happen upfront, supported by transparent communication. Lastly, Nida speaks about what I keep on saying a lot these days, about the critical role of data in driving informed decision-making and fostering organizational cohesion. And I think by harnessing both quantitative and qualitative data, organizations can really construct a compelling narrative that resonates with stakeholders, from frontline employees to C-suite executives. I think, in a sense, Nida's insights underscore the interconnectedness of employee well-being, organizational performance, and effective leadership. Listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey, and until next time, this is Parthajeet signing off.
Work made easy. The transformative power of simplicity in driving positive action and unlocking your fullest potential.